Welcome to the Friday edition of MLB Central. Lauren Shahadi, Mark DeRosa. I'm Robert Flores. We're pleased to be joined by former big leaguer and current analyst for SNY, Todd Zeile. He's also the co-founder of BitFry Game Studio. We're going to talk about all of that, especially the video game part, because you know that interests me. But Todd, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing well, guys. Back in New York City. It's been a while since I've been here in the city, and I have to say it's a little bit odd coming back and just kind of being back in this environment when things have changed so dramatically. I had a chance to kind of hole up in Southern California for a while, and now with baseball coming back, it's time to go back to work in the city and get ready to analyze some baseball games.
Todd, D-Row talks about his travels and playing for various teams in his big league career. You have a similar story. 11 teams in your 16-year career. You call yourself the Forrest Gump of Major League Baseball. What is your biggest takeaway from playing for all those teams and spending time in all those cities?
You know what? I guess the fact is that I was able to kind of create some sort of experience out of all of the stops. And, I just keep telling myself that somebody new wanted me. It wasn't that somebody didn't want me, so I can pretend. But I was around for a lot of interesting moments, including Eddie Murray's 500th home run, and played besides Ozzie Smith and Cal Ripken, and then Robbie Alomar spitting on an umpire, and just a multitude of things. Subway Series. So I guess all of those things built into experiences I wouldn't have had if I'd have been a guy that stayed in St. Louis or somewhere like that for the length of my career.
And then ended it all on a high note with a 3-run shot. But let's cut to the chase. Robert's being kind. What he really wants to talk about is how he's obsessed with your daughter and This Is Us. Do you have any spoilers for us?
Yeah. I wish I did. She's like tight-lipped about it. There is really nothing I can tell you except that they're hoping to go back to shooting, sometime in July. That was, I think, the original intent. But, obviously things change and have continued to change. But, she was with me recently and said that, hey, they announced that they're coming back with new episodes coming up soon. So that means that she's going to probably have to go back and start shooting them at some point.
This Is Us or Tiger King, Todd?
I tried Tiger King. I have to admit, I tried Tiger King, and as much as you like to watch a train wreck, that one I didn't have the stomach to see it all the way through.
Same here. Off Tiger King. I watched about 15 minutes. I'm like, get this out of my face.
I gave it a little more than that. I gave it like 2 episodes, thinking, okay, now with add in the girl and a murder and stuff, and it's going to get really interesting. And you know what? It's still on the binge list to do sometime when I've really got nothing in my life to do.
All right. I think you're one of the best analysts out there. I love hearing your breakdowns offensively. I remember you went just nice style, just laid it on the shoulder and lifted it up. There are some mashers in this lineup, and in a 60-game sprint, Todd, the Mets get real interesting because they have superstar potential, especially if Cespedes is in there. Kind of break down what you're expecting from the Mets 60-game sprint.
You know what? I obviously work with SNY. I analyze the Mets. I'm a guy that's become very close with this team in the sense that I watch them every day. I really do believe that they've got a great core of young players with McNeil and Alonso, Conforto, that I think is really just begun to tap his potential. You got a guy like J.D. Davis who had such a great breakout season last year, and I think he's a real offensive threat. So, look, I think besides, the loss of Syndergaard, I think this team is really poised in a sprint, as you're saying, a short season sprint. I think they can really make some noise, and I think it's going to really depend on whether that core really surrounding Alonso gets out of the gates well, because if they can drive in runs, their pitching is going to keep them pretty close. And I think, look, this season they have a bullpen that's coming back that's a little bit more bolstered with Betances. I think you got to expect some bounce back out of Diaz, and Lugo I think is about as good as anybody in the bullpen that there is. So look, they I think can do really well and surprise some people, but it won't surprise me to see them at the top of the division and getting a chance to, make some noise in this short season.
Dero's just salivating at the thought of watching Brody Van Wagen make a move at the end. But you mentioned the pitching and the bullpen. How does their pitching shake out? Are we going to see guys go 7-8 like we normally would in a regular season, but a 60-game sprint's different?
That's a great question. I know that you guys have been, having to try to figure this out, and I guess it remains to be seen. I think Luis Rojas is, I think, probably in a great position because he hasn't had that big league managerial experience to kind of, I think, put him into some specific sort of mold. I think he's ready to adapt, and I think he's really close with the guys. But look, I think Steven Matz looks like he's stretched out already a little bit. DeGrom is going to be DeGrom. I wouldn't be surprised to see him stretched out. And I think they're going to give, those starting guys a little bit of a leash. I think Wacha and Porcello end up being good moves this offseason to kind of bolster that rotation. I think the key to me is going to be Stroman. If Stroman can finally be the Stroman that I think a lot of people think that he can be in New York and kind of get a little bit less amped up because he's in New York and a little bit more just sort of cool and collected and use that sinker, I think this rotation has the ability to put a lot of guys in a position to win and then hand it off to a bullpen that I think is going to be pretty strong down the stretch.
I want to bring it back to you because Roflo, Lauren, they were saying gun for hire, 11 different teams, 11 different organizations. I played for 8, but there's a few or maybe one that was more special than the other. If Todd Zeile's going into the Hall of Fame, 11 caps are put in front of him. What one is he putting on?
Well, since that's never happening, we can just
let's go.
As a great hypothetical. I honestly, I think it is the Mets, and I'm not saying that because I'm doing work with the Mets, but considering that I never really played in one place long enough to kind of create an identity outside of St. Louis, and when I got traded from St. Louis, it's kind of a bad time in that organization, and kind of a weird time with the Bush family getting ready to sell. So New York Mets, to me, I played in a World Series here. I went through 9/11 living in the city and really kind of was a part of that relief effort and seeing the city kind of rally around the Mets to rebuild. And then I ended my career here. So 3 significant things that I think really kind of ingrained me in the Mets, sort of family. And it feels like a family still in that organization. And then, I just love New York City. And I think those moments have probably crystallized, at least for me, what I think is the sort of the DNA that I have in this game, and that's with New York.
Todd, I mentioned you're the co-founder of BitFry Games, and your company has a game. It's called Ultimate Rivals. Give people an idea of what it is. I've played it. I think it's great. Tell people what it is and how they can play it.
So BitFry Games Studio came to me about 4 or 5 years ago. The co-founder Ben Friedland, and said he was looking for some voiceover talent, and he knew I was coming off some work with Charlie Sheen, which is a totally different segment. But the reality is I didn't have a lot of experience in gaming, but I had a lot of relationships in sports, obviously. So we set out to license this game. Ultimately, we create Ultimate Rivals. The Rink is the hockey version that's out right now on Apple Arcade. Apple's been a great partner, but the DNA of it is that it's a fast-paced arcade action hockey game, but you can cross over talent from all the other leagues and players into your game. So LeBron James and Clayton Kershaw can play a match against Justin Turner and Alex Ovechkin or Alex Morgan on the ice, and you see this mix and match of athletes, and they kind of are like superheroes in the game. And so that's the real crux of the game. And then we've got, like I said, the Rink is out right now, the hockey version. And then we're creating a franchise with the court, the basketball version coming out probably holiday 2020.
We only have time for one more question. Do I ask about Charlie Sheen or Al Leiter? Like, where do I go from here? Al, teammates with Al and Cliff. Got any stories, Todd? We want the best.
Oh, no. The only thing I can tell you about Al is that he plays this little, this game of being, oh, you know what? Hey, I don't really know. He's kind of unfrozen caveman lawyer. I don't really know about your fancy flying machines, but Al is dialed in. Al knows every little nuance of what's going on, reads everything going on. And what I can tell you about Al is he and I got invited at the same time to do Howard Stern. And this was prior to the 2000 World Series. All I know is I showed up, and Al at the last minute said, you know what? I don't think I want Howard digging in too deep here, so I'm going to let you go solo. That's what you need to know about Al. He's protecting that image because, we might want to run for Senate or something someday still.
And Todd, that he'll talk to you like 1 centimeter away from your face at all times.
He's a close talker.
By the way, he's got the strongest hands in the world. So he puts them, he gives you the death grip here just in case you're trying to back away from that close talker. Yeah. He's a
what a description. I share an office with him. Unfrozen caveman. That's that lighter. Very good.
Yeah, go back and watch some SNL repeats of that sketch, and you'll get it for sure.
Todd, what a treat spending time with you. Thanks so much for the time this morning. Have a wonderful season and take good care.
Thanks, guys. Always great to see you. Stay healthy.
Always good to see you as well. And thanks so much to our viewers. This is our final, gentlemen, it's our final virtual edition of MLB Central through all the quarantining. We have hung together and talked baseball through all the hardship. We will be back on the crushed red velvet.
I'm not going back. I'm going to stay right here. I'm staying right here.
In your pool, on your float, to get your tushy up and into Studio 21. We will see you July 23rd. For Todd Zeile, D-Row, Robert Flores, I'm Lauren. Have a wonderful day. Take care.